This is not the video you deserve, but it's the video you're going to get. Too much stuff going on with the MAHO at the moment, and I'm afraid I just don't have time to explain. Okay, now I should have some time to explain. When we last left off, X and Z were all grown up and moving on their own. If my calculations were correct, the next logical video would have been the y-axis. And the y-axis has indeed been taking its first steps. It's moving so fast, in fact, that it shot straight out the back. Screw came right out of the nut. Ball bearings everywhere. I spent hours on the floor with my tweezers and optivisors, hunting them down, counting them up, sorting them from the dog hair. So perhaps you can just imagine the thermonuclear rage it induced when I drove this screw out of that ball nut twice in the span of 30-40 minutes. I don't know how, but even at 5% jog rate, this y-axis can move at twice the speed of sound. No, I don't have limit switches installed. Bring that up again and I'll have the bouncers show you. I went through the whole production of making a y-axis video, and when I was done, I hated it. I mean, it was an alright video, lots of the usual talking and hand waving, explaining how the MAHO used to do its thing and talking about how I planned to have it do its new thing. There were a ton of great jokes. We laughed, we cried, we grew closer. I even went so far as to do the old CAD bit, waxing poetic about the pros and cons of different servo arrangements, problems I was running into, torque, speed, and cardiovascular calculations. And when I was done, I hated the video. I mean, there's no way I would have 3 axes moving and not cut a first part. They talk about blue ball bearings, right? So I started the video from scratch. I already knew how it would open with a glorious machining shot of the MAHO doing its thing, cutting some sexy part. Lights, disco music, the whole 9 meters. Sure, the servos aren't fully tuned, the lube system isn't set up, I don't have an electrical cabinet, coolant, or air, but with 3 live axes and a spinning spindle, I could probably make a pretty cool part that conveyed my enthusiasm. This, by the way, is the bottom of the machine table. Cleaned up pretty good, huh? Speaking of the lube system, I made a real bonehead move when I broke this machine down. These are the original lines. They looked, I don't know, pretty old and nasty to me before I wiped them all down and blew them out. At the time I cut them, figuring I'd just change all the lines out for fresh ones. Here's a new one here. But as it turns out, all the compression fittings in these banjo nuts, where the tubes interface with the machine, are ancient tech, impossible to find. So other than the lube pump, which is working, I had to order all new stuff. I'm slowly installing new fittings and running new lines as I work my way out of the machine. Had I just unscrewed them, not cut the lines, I'd have probably saved myself a couple $100. I dug up a new old motor, got the pulleys cut and belted, wired in a VFD, and got all that madness sorted out. This will eventually be controlled with the computer, serial comm, but for now I could stop, start, and set spindle speed manually. Long story short, I get everything together, excited as a little girl, fired it up, and oil from the head came pouring out the spindle nose. Cue the sad trumpet. Poor thing is losing quite a bit of oil. Nothing to do but stop this train and break the spindle down. Hopefully it's just a seal, but I am hearing an occasional clunking noise. Maybe it's a bearing, or I left my 3/4 inch impact gun in there when I had it apart. I'm bummed, but this may be a blessing in disguise. Well, for the best, rather. Had this not leaked, I'd have been throwing chips all over a machine without way covers, screw covers, exposed drives, wiring all over the floor. This leak may have just saved my life. So bear with me a minute while I get this sorted out, start cleaning up these wires, putting some of the guarding back on. Then we'll come back and really take this machine to town. Next video is going to be something a little bit different, something I think you'll really like. Sorry about the short video, but I didn't want to leave everybody hanging. For now, thanks for watching. I knew that was going to happen. I mean, maybe not this exactly, but something was bound to happen. Like I said, nothing is tuned on this machine. Gibs aren't even really tight. Well, they're snug, but they're not set. But I just had to get that out of my system. That was a facing cut. I was going to cut a 2 3/4 inch boss and then a 2-inch counterbore. I mean, I have no idea what the spindle speed was. Couldn't have been more than 15 or 1600 RPM. Chip load per tooth was enormous. I tried to slow it down a bit, but without knowing exactly how fast that thing was spinning, feed rates were a total guess. At the very least, I've got some cleaning up to do. Thanks for watching. I'd be the first one to tell you this part is nothing to write home about, neither in terms of complexity or machine load. But I just wanted to see the servos doing some simultaneous moves. Did you notice the lack of whiny stepper noises? I sure did. Music to my ears. Nothing against steppers, of course, but in the hobby world, that whine had become synonymous with CNC. I measured it. Turns out this was 1800 RPM spindle speed, 2 flute, 5/16 carbide end mill, with a 3/8 inch depth of cut, going 600 millimeters per minute. That's about 20 or so inches per minute. Sorry for the mixed units. The machine is metric. My brain is 50-50. Surface finish surprised me. Lots of chatter. Then I realized I ran these tests with a loose spindle nose. I pulled the cap yesterday hoping to find an easy seal in there, and in my excitement forgot to reinstall it. If you go back to the dripping spindle close-up, you'll see the wobble while the machine's running. Anyway, that's it. Premature, yes, but I think this might be the start of a beautiful and healthy relationship between a lonely old man in his garage and a filthy old zombie robot machine. Thanks for watching.